Hey, it's me, Big P, and I wanted to make a video chronicling the League start journey of the Magma Inquisitor that I planned on. Excuse my voice, I was at a wedding last night, which really cut into my Atlas progress. As you can see here, we're only just breaking into the yellow maps now. I'm going to run a tier 4 thicket. Mouse over all my gear real quick if you want to pause at any point here, but there also will be a path of building in the description. I wouldn't really follow it because this is, just leveling gear, just like a 5 link I found, like a death rush I found, and stuff like that. A lot of it is subject to change, straight up to even the skill that maybe I'll be playing. I'm going to go over the ins and outs of Magma Orb and why you might want to do it and why you might not want to do it, because there's a lot of good spells out there. Let's just put it that way. Here's the thicket. Cannot inflict exposure, but I'm still going to do it on the boss. Well, it's on an Arcanist brand. Wave of Conviction, Flammability, and Arcanist brand. So, we'll get into maybe how the Uber Lab will help us, and I'll just show off the whole pinpoint intensify. Let's swap these just so it's pinpoint intensify. And yes, I am using slower projectiles for the Magma Orb. I really can't. I think I was like leveling the gem, and I wasn't comfortable with it until a bit later. I think it really does affect how fast the projectiles get out. It really is a whatchamacallit, a projectile skill, which I'm not really used to playing. I honestly kind of want to roll Blade Vortex. I probably will roll at least one Blade Vortex build, but it's cool to have a bit of reach with your spell, because you can kind of shoot into the next room here on these indoor maps. That being said, it is a projectile that's kind of weird. It's a slow one, and it isn't a straight, it's not like a bow attack. Because it lands, it has trouble getting over large gaps and things like that. We're going to need to flame wall for that, whatever the hell's going on there. But luckily, it is a pretty cool, pretty big AoE. Especially with the extra projectiles. Between that and Herald of Ash, the clear is fantastic. Maybe once we get to like tier 16, we'll have to swap it out for more damage. But we'll talk about scaling damage. On the topic of it, it's been okay for Archnemesis. I was going to say nemesises, but I don't think that's the plural. It's been okay, really up until I have effective level 20 skill gem right now, because my leveling daggers, I'll do a more detailed go over. But in case you didn't really look too deep into the buffs, the buffs were kind of loaded to be on the back end of the skill gem levels, so you'll only really notice like the huge buffs, not the effectiveness of added damage buffs. That's just 280 from level 1. This was like the gem that Nessa gave me in level 1, which is pretty cool. So if you're the type who doesn't like to swap between leveling setups and stuff like this, this got me pretty cleanly to level 75. I did get kind of really lucky with, whatchamacallit. Don't mind me just cleaning up my lower level things that I got in the axe. Whatever you want to call them. Candies. See my Frost Shield and Molten Shell cast when damage taken going off. Ooh, is that a new one? Little cute little... Okay, those look scary. I will say, there's two of these Archnemesis things that kind of hard counter the build right now. It's the one that gives Fire Res, and the one that gives Storm Herald, so it makes the Storm Lightning people follow you around, because you pretty much have to stand still and get multiple casts off to get to that max intensity stack. It's pretty rough to do when you have... you're doing a lot of hits with this build. I don't know if you can tell. We are still currently Elemental Overload, and that's pretty much always up. We're not going to go into crit until later gearing. You really shouldn't be forcing crit early on really any builds. So you look for LE overload, resolute technique, that's that sort of stuff. And it seems to be pretty great so far, although now that we have had our third lab done, we probably could get away with it and it'd be alright, but, you know, just for a little bit more consistency. Yeah, now let's save the unique for to start one off. I've liked Archnemesis, although I gotta say, I feel like the only reason I've been getting away with doing it pretty good, well, now that my gem level is pretty high, the damage is pretty solid there for tier 4 map. I was struggling even in earlier maps before the gem levels, so, you know, just give your, no matter what skill you're playing, give your gems the tender love and experience they need to shine. I think a lot of the buffs were done at the end because, you know, it'd be kind of weird to just add like a huge amount of damage to a gem suddenly, and then people are just like, oh, just level with this. And yeah, we can get +1 gems on a couple, well, very easily on, not very easily, it's pretty rare. You can get it early, is what I mean, the +1 to level of skill gems. And that's basically what is determining my early game boost. The essence is here. It's awkward. I have very much enjoyed the new Atlas, even at a very early stage. This doesn't seem to be doing that much damage. I mean, I guess so was alright. Totally was ignoring me, though. I got super lucky again, thanks to old Stony Golem here. Boom, he's so cool. He really pulls the aggro. If, I mean, just generally speaking, best leveling buddy I've had in a while, specifically for this, whatchamacallit, this league. You want to go back? I was using an Onslaught Flask, but then just dropped the Death Rush, which gives us Onslaught on kill, which I think is great for leveling. Alright, we're not going all the way back. Fuck that. That was clear. Let's go over the earlier points of my leveling gear. Probably the big ones are the +1 to skill gems. This one's, I mean, it's actually not that good at all. Both of them are pretty worthless except for the +1 skill gems. So if you're like SSF and like want to waste a bunch of alts on, you know, some rune daggers, I'm probably going to be using rune daggers unless I invest further into one of the big weapons, which we'll talk about in a bit. But yeah. This was comically bad too. I guess before I was Eldritch Battery, the mana regen was at least doing something for me, and the global crit, if I was an elemental overload, would be okay. But this is just like comically bad for my build. That's an attack modifier, attack speed modifier, attack accuracy rating, chance to poison on hit. I think we have to, I'm pretty sure that's local. Do I have a chance to poison? No, okay. Maybe you have to do physical damage to poison, so we'll get that from Battle Mage. And the rest is just like rare gear. This has Fizz's Fire. I like barely even realized that. I should probably craft a better res on that and use it for a bit until we get either a Crown of the Inward Eye if I'm lazy, or maybe a shaped helmet or something to put like Flame Wall in. If not, our main skill, if we could use a Calm's Heart chest piece. This is giving some good decks, which we unfortunately kind of need at this point for the slower projectiles. We are also in the 30 dex node here, and that gives us 115, which should be enough. And then also Tornado we might use in our Arcanist brand once we get the Uber Lab and the Wave of Conviction is gone, as well as the Flammability. I really should be leveling a, what is it, Assassin's Mark. That's going to be our curse once we get the Uber Lab. I really am going to commit to the Inevitable Judgment because I kind of plan on getting Battle Mage from the Martyr of Innocence staff. Seen a lot that are listed for like around like 45, 50 chaos. So that seems like a good first like purchase. I also got a random X drop in like Act 8, so I might just spend that on like one that like has a high damage roll, because with Battle Mage, I'm just salivating at the thought of adding like what, like 500 flat damage to a spell that has 280% added effectiveness. I don't even care if a little bit of his physical, put it all on there. That way I can poison on hit, right? No, okay. This is okay. Pretty good, actually. Ring. And waited for the move speed boots to drop. Here's the 30 move speed boots. Hopefully we'll get a little better ones if I start dropping the new influence crafting stuff on there. This is pretty bad, and it doesn't have an open suffix, but it's a lot of strength, which will translate directly to crit. And actually, I was having some strength issues with my auras, and this is pretty bad, but like my gloves, I was like using like ones from like Act 3. So yeah. And here's a 5-link chest piece that I've been throwing essences at, and I'm just crafting reses here and there. Not sure really if I want to get a Martyr of Innocence and then focus on 6-linking that, or probably should do the chest piece first either way, because the Martyr of Innocence has Vengeance built in, which is like a thing that triggers on block. And so I feel like I can get a lot of utility out of a cast on crit setup out of that. That might be a little too inconsistent and like kind of, you know, magical dreamland, but we'll see. Oh my God, look at that. Wow, that's a really good amulet. Hopefully I can use that, but probably not because I'm getting a lot of decks from this and I haven't even blessed it. Not that I would. I might honestly just end up using Archnemesis like I always do, because it's just so easy and like kind of cheap and straightforward. And even, you know, yeah, I'm only using 2 green skill gems, but I'm still having dex issues. And any strength you can get is crit. Speaking of crit, let's go over the skill tree a bit. I am reaching down here to get Iron Will and a bit of Constitution, because I have felt a little bit not super tanky as I'm going into maps. I'm still leveling with Purity of Elements as one of my auras as my gear gets slightly better. So I haven't actually moved into this or these more defensive nodes here. But I am looking to maybe going into the staff nodes, probably dropping the 6 points here, and then maybe getting Corrupted Soul over here with the Karui gem, and then going low life if I can like fit Righteous Fire and like weird stuff like that into the build. I wonder how Eldritch Battery works with Corrupted Soul. It's Eldritch Battery and Mind Over Matter, just so that you can get some more leverage out of the ES, which is pretty great on Inquisitor once you have Pious Path. That's probably about when I went Eldritch Battery. I cannot imagine how much more clunky this would feel if my full effective DPS was reliant on a mana flask. I don't even want to think about, you know, if it's not good enough to kill a boss within the charges of your mana flask, you're gonna feel like shit. And so Eldritch Battery early. I mean, this is like the original Corrupted Soul, because now you get to like, you still get some usage of it, and you kind of put your castman damage taken. You can put it a little bit higher, because it's not like, I mean, if it hits all, I don't know, you're gonna die if something takes out all your ES anyway, and you regen it back very fast. So like little hits will add up, and then you get to do a pretty decent Molten Shell. I'm working on getting more armor bases, and I am using Determination right now. And you get a Frost Shield, which helps. It brings like base spell crit up and stuff like that. It's really good. It's just a little bit of mitigation. I'll probably try and bump these trigger numbers higher, just because these are such good. Like Molten Shell and Frost Shield are just so good. Saving the Vol skill for probably Vol Righteous Fire, just for like the extra oomph on bosses once I have all the gear figured out, like what I'm going to do. You know, I kind of want to do a bunch of different stuff that I might actually not be able to get away with, but you know, it might be trying to do too much. Speaking of which, if you don't like the rolling magma playstyle, I do not blame you. It's a lot of things to keep track of. Your flame wall, mine is here, flame wall, flame dash, spell cascade. Flame dash, you don't really have anything. Once you go Eldritch Battery, you cannot get Arcane Surge unless you get it like Arcane Surge on kill from the Unveil. So don't even bother with stuff like that. Spell cascade does affect the damage of your flame wall. It's got a pretty short duration too. What is it, lasts just under 5 seconds, but then it just kind of gives you an area where your shit fucks. Like, it's just like, okay, now you're adding about 100 damage to your spells, which is more like what, like 280 damage to your spells. Pretty significant. You'll notice it, and you definitely will notice on like anybody with like decent fire res, unless you put your Arcanist brand on them with flammability and Wave of Conviction. However, because this build is already using Flame Wall as part of the combo, I do not want to be like Flame Walling and Arcanist branding, unless I really have to on like single target. You know, the Wave of Conviction, the difference between having that up and just the pure, once I'm pure crit and just having a little bit of pen on non-crits, but most of my hits should be crits, and we'll just completely ignore it. That would be way more preferable. And then you can get the Battle Mage too from the weapon, which I've actually never done, just because you can get early Battle Mage on a number of different, and then like, you know, we're not doing that. We're gonna get the Martyr of Innocence. It's not as expensive as I thought it would be. I guess people aren't self-casting. What else? Skill tree. I mean, the skill tree is the same that I said it would be. Still EO for the leveling. And yeah, we're going to go into, well, let's talk about the staff nodes, I guess, that I would go into. Whirling Barrier and Counterweight are a must for a crit build. And then you got your offensive ones here, like Serpent Stance. Not that one. And then some like spell blocks, more block here. As well as Safeguard. Which could be good. Hopefully we won't have to go Glancing Blows. There's like a pretty decent chunk on the Martyr of Innocence. And having full block would be preferable. But if we are going to use a setup where ideally we will be blocking a lot and then critting on that Vengeance proc, maybe we will have to go into it. But then I'll make my skill tree look ugly because I have to, and then this will all be connected. But anyway, what else beyond that? I'm not sure what else to go. Let's dive into the gem links a bit more. I went over the Flame Wall, Flame Dash Spell Cascade, and my Arcanus brand. Here are Tornado. I'm not using in anything. I'm just leveling it for maybe later usage. We are only using one offensive aura right now. That's Herald of Ash. The other ones are full defense. We got Determination and Vitality, and we are leveling the Anger still, as well as leveling Combustion, which we won't actually end up using. That's where I should put the Assassin's Mark, really. And Ellie Focus, which I'm thinking about, but because I swapped to Immolate a little bit later than I wish I did, because just that's a huge... I thought about it, but I was like, is burning going to be consistent? I'm pretty sure Flame Wall causes burning damage, and that makes the enemy count as burning. And even if it doesn't, any of your crits that you do will cause burning, as long as you're not using LA Focus and main links, because Ignite is a burning damage. Maybe there's a number of burning damages. And if you run Righteous Fire, you will also have burning. You will just be burning stuff that's close to you. And yeah, here, let's take a look. So let's compare Slower Proj. I think just staggering the drops of the damage is way... It just helps. You know, like, that's very quick. And as you're moving through a map, you know, one volley should be enough for any normal or magic pack. Really, maybe one or two for a magic pack if it, like, resists your stuff early on. But you know, I don't know. I think it just feels better for coverage. Makes me feel like I'm more covered when I throw it and then walk towards it. You know, you're even at very low speeds. You can flame dash in and you'll like outpace it a bit if you're not aiming. To say nothing of the fact that, you know, if you don't like aiming, like, don't play this skill. It's not gonna work. Like, you have to focus on shooting through the flame wall. Which isn't terrible. You know, every 5 seconds you do have to recast it. Maybe we'll get increased duration if we have space in the links for it. But beyond that, I think, you know, the actual ones that I'm going to use are increased crit strikes. Let's talk about Spell Echo, because I see a lot of people using it. Me personally, my daggers aren't as good as I had hoped they would be. I was kind of hoping for like some fat cast speed rolls here. I pretty much do not have cast speed on any of the spots that I hoped I would be getting it. And, you know, you can't really work around that. And so Spell Echo, I'm leveling. I can already kind of tell I'm probably not going to use it. The cast speed, you know, if you have enough damage on your cast, you won't need to do multiple. And the double, you know, the repeats, it would be good to have increased area of effect on the final repeat of spells. That'd be pretty cool. Of course, if you're using something like Pledge of Hands, especially on like a Hyro or an Archmage version, might be cool with the Elementalist, or Hyro also there, but I don't know. I don't have the cast speed to really get away with it right now, and I was definitely feeling, you know, even with the single cast, I was feeling a little like I'm getting trapped, you know, spamming my spell on an Archnemesis boss and stuff like that. So, I don't know. Pushing the build further, I guess it would just be every single piece of gear that can really be improved. But the first big investment I would go for is the Martyr of Innocence. Just a ton of flat damage to your spell from the Battle Mage will be fantastic. And probably a pretty cool chest piece. You can get insane gear on rare chest modifiers, rather, from the new influence chest pieces. And, like, it's probably just something you're going to be able to throw on a decent base, just because that's just how it works now. You can just like put the cherry, I'm going to call them cherries and berries from now on. So leave a like if you think that's cringe. The Exarch has cherries and the Eater of Worlds drops berries. And yeah, so that's going to really make me want to keep just boosting some of this stuff, you know? It's gonna make, once I get to that point, even though these aren't that good, I guess Fizz taking as fire, especially if we go into like Purity of Fire, get the max res here and stuff like that, will be pretty rad because we don't have that much armor, especially if we stick with a pure ES base, which we might have to just to keep colors simple. We're not gonna do like an armor evasion base, but maybe I'm just being lazy about my gem colors and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm at least going to see this build through to 90 plus beyond then, and then I will do a full build guide on it, probably showcasing more endgame stuff by the end of the build's life, because hopefully it'll work out okay, and I can call this a successful league starter, because I gotta say, this is giving me like Metamorph vibes, and Metamorph is when I fell in love with Blade Vortex, because I just got a +2 Carcass Jack for duration gems, and it's like, Blade Vortex is a duration gem, and then I just fucking shredded everything and all the new Conquerors. I can't wait to shred and bounce my balls on the new bosses as well. So, yeah, I think that's all I can talk about right now. I'm going to play more. I'm going to stream during the week at least a couple hours during daylight, and then maybe also at night. We'll see. I'm going to no life. It's kind of my last chance to do so, so let's do so. Oh, let's go over the Atlas tree real quick. Yeah, Harbinger's good. Boost your maps. Essence, I'm not going for this until I go for Secret Operations. I'm gonna cough and my voice hurts because I was screaming at the wedding band. They really killed it last night. So I'm gonna wrap it up. Thanks for watching. Magma Orb is the best skill in the game. Don't listen to anybody else. I'm the only person playing this game. And I will see you in the next one.